to me, a man is stronger when he shows emotion and when he lets his true self out.
What's
Okay.
up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Your Superior Self. Today, I am honored to have Lorna Byrne on the show, joining us because of this excellent book that she has released 15 years ago, Angels in My Hair. Lorna, thank you for taking the time.
You're welcome. I'm delighted to be here talking with you, um, to be back again on your show. And
Yes.
I'm looking forward to all the questions, all the things you're going to ask me. I know last time they were so interesting.
Lorna, it's always a treat to have you on the show. Like, I just love how I just love being able to connect with you. I feel like you're very authentic. Some of the things you speak to, no one else knows about or even like can give you a heads up about. But before we air, right, like you're talking to me about situations in my life, and I'm like, holy crap, how does she know about this? Like, she's the real deal. So I can't thank you enough. And I can't thank you enough for sharing your story because I know it's not something that, it's a story that has hardship and has um it's tough to share sometimes when we lose people, and you put all of that in your story, in your book, and people can relate to that, and you have to be brave, right? Because it's not easy to share those types of things, so thank you for doing that.
You're welcome. It was very hard to share it. I was very scared. And I always remember saying to Archangel Michael and God, I'm going to be ridiculed and laughed at and all of that. I didn't know what to expect. But from the time I was a child, the angels were always reminding me that I would write one day. And I know I said that the last time, and I just thought God and the angels were crazy. I couldn't even write my name, even as a teenager. I don't know how I hid it so much, but I managed to do it. And just when my life unfolded, the time I turned around and said yes, because I was always saying no, constantly saying no. But in my heart and in my soul, I knew that one day I'd have to say yes, that I would have no choice in that way. And just to see angels in my hair go all around the world, it's incredible for a person who has no human education, but I have been educated by the angels and God in a different way altogether. And for me to be able to accomplish what I did. But what would I say? To me, even though the book is telling my life story and things that the angels taught me and Archangel Michael and, you know, family life and all those ups and downs, it's not about me. It's about you. It's about those who read it. It's about how somehow to me it's like a miracle somehow the way it has changed people's lives in a positive way. Sometimes somebody would say to me, and especially a young person, you gave me something to live for,
Hmm.
or you gave me hope. These things that are priceless, that you can't buy, or you settled my mind, you know. Um, and to me, that's why I believe, that God wanted me to write these books, to give this message out. And, I'm still, what would you say, overwhelmed by it and still kind of feel this couldn't be real. And yet, I still meet people on the street in loads of countries, and they just come up to me and say, thank you. And then they walk off. They don't even tell me who they are, like, or anymore. They just say thank you. And I don't know how they recognize me because I often wear sunglasses because I see so much light and I see the light of the angels that sometimes, my eyes get tired quicker in that way, even though that's my human eyes that get tired. But I know I'm seeing through the eyes of my soul as well. But the human part of us, that's the part, that's the human body. It's not as, what would you say? What's that word they're using? As resilient, if that's the right word, if I'm saying it right, as the human body. The human body is weaker, and the soul never runs out of energy or love in any way.
So powerful. So many questions I want to ask. One, how many angels do you have in the room with you today?
In the room with me today, I'll have to turn around and have a
Go ahead.
look.
Go ahead.
Six.
Six. I think we had eight last time. Maybe it was,
Well,
yeah, I think
six.
it was
There's
eight.
six here
Six.
today.
Who are they?
Well, Angel Hostess is here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And there is just four other angels that are just what I call angels. And Archangel Michael is just standing at the door there.
What's he
And
wearing?
just here.
What's he wearing? Is he wearing like the
Oh, what's he
traditional? Yeah,
wearing? How can I describe what Archangel Michael is wearing? Um, wow.
a business suit, or is he in a traditional garb?
No, he's wearing a jacket,
Oh yeah.
okay, but it's like as if it's tweeded um with gold and red. I can't, and it looks like satin or silk. It
Hmm.
looks really, really light.
Wow.
And he's wearing, what would I say? It's like the color is like golden trousers, but not exactly a golden color in that way. And he's just standing there with his hands like this, but they're down, but they're just like
He's
this.
just watching your back, essentially.
He's just watching my back. I think so. Yes.
Well, let him know we all said hi. Do they do they ever speak to like female archangels? Like I don't know if I've ever heard of like female archangels.
Oh yes, there is definitely. How would I describe? Um, I haven't written much about female archangels. Um, I know I call one female archangel, and I think I pronounce the name a little bit different, and that's Muriel. She gives a female appearance every time. Um, and then, there's been occasions where, how would I say this? Sometimes it's hard to describe something
Sure.
when I was brought to a particular place, and there would be just there's quite a lot of archangels, but there's not millions in that way. And they would just be in line. And some of them would give a female appearance and some would give a male appearance. I have to say, most of all of the other angels are neither male nor female. But it's like if we as human beings consider an archangel female, it will always give that appearance. And that part I don't understand either
Mhm.
in that way. Like Archangel Michael and Archangel Gabriel always give a male appearance, you know. So yeah, no, there is. Some of them I couldn't even now on air. I couldn't even pronounce their name. I would have to have ask Archangel Michael, could he send one to me ask God, could one come and help me to learn its name so I could say it?
Hmm. Um, yeah, I feel like, yeah, I've just never heard of them, right? You always hear about Archangel Michael and Gabriel and
Yeah.
some of the others, right? But as far as females, right? Like I feel they should be brought up in the mix as well. I mean, you're hearing a lot about the divine feminine now, and I just think it makes sense, right? Like especially for me, if I want to integrate that, because I'm very much into my masculinity, if I want to integrate that part of myself with the feminine, it would just make sense, right? To have like guardian angels or an archangel type that is feminine to help me with that transition and kind of feel that part of myself that, traditionally here in the West, we have kind of buried, or not maybe buried, right? Like, but created a barrier between the selves because we've been conditioned to feel a certain way or act a certain way, especially for males, not to show emotion, be tough, suck it up. You'll get through this. Don't worry about it. Keep going. Don't speak about your emotions. Don't cry. Um, but I feel like there is a release happening in society, right? Like that is allowing more so that.
Yeah, there is, and I that is something now I'm going to do. I'm going to talk to Archangel Michael afterwards, and I'm going to ask, can God send even more than one female archangel for me to get to know so I can tell people about?
Oh, I think I
You
just
know,
contributed, right? Like
yes, you did.
yes,
You just contributed there
yes.
now,
That's awesome.
talking to you.
You
I'll
got
put
to,
that into the book
the
as
next
well.
book, you got to give me a shout out. You got to
Yes,
say,
I will do that. Um, because I think that is so important because one of the things to me, a man is stronger when he shows emotion and when he lets his true self out. And sometimes I would often watch the guardian angel trying to help a man to do that. It's kind of what I just see the archangel or the guardian angel doing is it opens its hands like this with the fingers parted,
mhm,
and it's, how would I say, it's like it's pushing from behind the man forward, trying to help him to allow the emotions out, all the ups and downs that one feels. I never look on a man as weak when they get emotional. I think, to me, to allow that to happen means great strength. It means compassion and love, and it means, honor
mm,
in that way, like a hero, to do the right thing, to defend the weak, um, those that can't defend themselves. But I think if when men don't let that out, or even when women don't let that out, it makes them more cold hearted. And I suppose with all the conditioning, for generations, it has made men cold hearted. Not all of the time, but at times when maybe they're not meant to be cold hearted. You know,
mhm,
I love the way that I know the angels have been helping the soldiers in Ukraine and in different parts of the world. And at times we get an example where we hear or see a soldier showing empathy to the enemy, allowing that. And again, that's that emotion, that mercy out, and not
mhm.
having to be tough and angry and cut someone down in that way.
I've never thought about that, right? Like to show your emotions like that and be vulnerable, like how that helps, like to your point of defending the weak, right? Like because what you're doing, you're creating an example for them that you can be vulnerable, that you can display emotion and not be afraid of the repercussions of that, right? Um,
Yeah,
I never really thought about it like that. I always thought, oh, well, you have to suck it up and go. And to be able to release that part of you that is maybe hurting and allow it to be visible for others and say, he's feeling the same things that I'm feeling, right? It's not bad to feel have these feelings. Like I can display my emotions and it's okay.
Yeah, no, I think it's so important. And I love the way, you know, we're talking more, and I'm meeting men that are saying, and young men as well, that are saying, they want the feminine side to come out as well. They want to be, in a sense, like to have to have both, to make them strong, to
Mhm.
make them good, to be those heroes, and we need that in the world today.
Yeah. I heard someone I was speaking to a friend and she was saying, well, you're creating a container for the feminine, right? Like you have this masculine base or this masculine container that is housing the feminine divine within you, right? The spirit comes within you. So I look at it like that. Like I can still celebrate the masculine in me by going out and doing like workouts, runs, lifting weights, and things of that nature. But I look at it as creating a strong foundation for the divine, the feminine to come in and I mean, creating a strong house so that the divine feminine can come in and live, right? Like that's how I look at it now. It's not just one sided where it's like I got to be this and I'm going to continue to do this. I'm going to be the warrior archetype and that's it. Now it's so much more apparent to me that the divine feminine is needed for my creativity, for other parts of me that I've been ignoring for so long, right?
Yeah, and I think that's absolutely wonderful that you're acknowledging that yourself, because there's going to be lots of men that are going to hear that you're acknowledging that yourself, and it gives them courage to acknowledge it. And I love the way, um, the angels are neither male nor female. They can be both.
Mm-hmm.
And I suppose that's, helping us to understand that we need both to come in to enhance our soul in some way, the human part, for us to connect spiritually. We're allowing all the spiritual knowledge in and wisdom in, and the male side and the female side, all of that. Imagine how incredible a person, or how incredible you will come, or any other male or female, by allowing in the feminine side.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that
Just think
loving
about
part
it.
of us, right? Like that. I mean, it's so.
Yeah.
I think it's so much more powerful than we give it credit. That's this whole nother energy that we just have been. Well, for me, right? Like as that warrior masculine type, like how I've been ignoring that and not letting that come in. Like even to show tears or to cry, right? Like as a man, it's like I can feel myself fight against that when like it's okay, right? Like I'm being totally honest and transparent. Like it's hard for me to cry at times. Like it's like I push it down. I feel the programs coming up in me. Like even when it's an okay situation to cry. Like I feel like automatically it's like don't do it, don't do it. I mean, even like the birth of my children, like I'm fighting back the tears. Like I'm like, don't let these women see me cry. And it's like I I had to take a moment. But then looking back on that and just seeing like, oh man, like that's a lot of that is the social programming, right? And this idea that you cannot be weak. And I look back and I don't know. I feel it and I see guys going through that now and I don't make fun of it like I used to. Like I don't. I accept it and say, "Man, I'm right there with you, brother." Like it's okay.
And it is okay. I just love, like, just think about all of the men that are at the birth of their child, and they hold back the tears, because those tears are tears of joy.
Hmm.
They're tears of overwhelmed with what has just happened, that this little creature, this little human being, has been born, and it's part of you and part of mom. And that's an incredible miracle happening at that moment of life. And I would know spiritually that the room would have been surrounded with angels,
Hmm.
in that way. Um, I think men are missing out an awful lot, but I think a lot of the younger men are trying to let that feminine side in. But yes, of course, for generations, it has been bet into children that the boy doesn't cry, he doesn't show emotion, and and it has been with the female in one sense not to show strength, not to allow the masculine side in to show strength. But yet, through history, there has been many times, like during war, where women let the masculine side in, you know, and it's like as if it's not a huge effort, as the same for men, and they allow that to happen, and they have this great strength um, to protect, and even to protect the man as well, in that way.
Mhm.
They don't give up. They still keep on going forward.
Sure. I need some of that, right? Like I need more of that. Like that divine feminine, like draw more from. Like that just sounds so amazing to me, powerful. But I mean, to your point, like the angels are genderless. Like, isn't our true nature genderless?
Say that again.
Like our true nature, like who we really are, like the sparks of light, the sparks of God. Like, aren't we just? I mean, we just have gender here in this physical reality because we host these bodies, but ultimately, like when it comes down to it, like we have no gender, right? Like, I mean,
Yes, I actually love what you have just said. Your soul has no gender. That's the first time anyone has come up and said this. Um, yes, your soul is neither male or female. It's that spark of light of God, and God is neither male nor female either. You know, um, and again, it's like the angels are neither, but they can be both, or they can be one or the other. And I suppose through time, and sadly to say through religion in that way, you know, we weren't allowed spiritually to acknowledge both sides, in that way, the male and the female. And it was pushed out, not accepted, and that only the male could be strong. But I think men through the generations went through an awful lot of suffering and are still suffering today. And I know the angels are helping people and helping men to to take that step forward, because your soul is neither male nor female. Um, and again, I would say I love the way you brought that up. Neither male nor female. No one has ever brought that up before, because God is neither. It's like, you know, I was brought up a Catholic, so as a child I was told God was male in that way. So I do love the way that anytime I'm in the presence of God, he gives a male appearance. I'm comfortable with that because of being brought up a Catholic. But if I had been brought up in another faith and God was considered a female, um, I bet you God would have appeared to me every time as female, because that's what my human self would have been comfortable with, in that way. Our human self and our soul, our spiritual side, we still have them separated, but we are focusing on to bring that closer, to get closer for that intertwining. And you're taking a big step in that direction personally yourself. But I know there's loads of men, hundreds and thousands of men, and even children, young boys, taking that step as well. fighting with mankind to show their emotions as well in that way. And to me, all that is good because it's spiritual growth as well. It's acknowledging humanly that we are a spiritual being, and humanly, I I want to cry. I want to, you know, have the knowledge and feel the presence of my soul and feel all those emotions and feel that love. And I want to love myself, like
Mhm.
even being brought up as Catholic, you know, we were told not to love ourselves, that it was wrong to love oneself. If one, treated oneself, you know, um, so I'm always telling people if you want, go out and get yourself a cup of tea and sit in a cafe and give yourself a little treat, or you want to go to the park, wherever you live, because I know everything is different, or a walk, you know, go and treat yourself because God loves you and your soul is pure love and it's wrapped around you and your guardian angel is the gatekeeper and wants the human self and the spiritual self, the male and female, to come together. And in a sense, I've been told to use this word, so I have to smile. It's like evolution explode in that way, and suddenly feel that joy and feel that happiness and feel all that emotion because it's so important to feel it because then you are alive,
Mhm.
to feel that love, to the mixture of the whole lot in that way.
Sure. Like true embodiment, right? Like that's why
Yeah.
I feel like that's one of the reasons why we're here, not just because of the experience, but like to truly fully be embodied as a human being and what that entails. It's like every emotion, like honor it and feel it. And even your quote unquote gender, like be in that, but also spiritually, right? Like embody the divine feminine, embody the masculinity of that. Um, and and honor both sides of it and integrate that into something that we've never been before. Like I don't know if I've ever seen like a fully embodied person. Like I just don't know if I've seen it. Have you?
No, not yet. And I have to smile. Um, I and still do today. I give out to God for, um, I would say, for not making me a man. That I should have been a man because then I would have been more listened to. Then I would have been more accepted. But again, that's wrong for me to think that way. And as
Sure.
well. Um,
Socially, right? Like social justice
yeah,
part, right? Yeah,
yeah,
because of that,
and
right? But that would just contribute more so to the stigmas that we have now and the belief systems that you have to be a male to be successful. Like you're female for a reason, like to empower women to be more assertive, more masculine, but also to own who you are and be true to your identity as a female and to raise while you raise the entire social side of being a female, of all the struggles they've been through, and like you're raising up a whole different, culture or whatever you want to call that.
well, I don't know what one would call it in that way, but I suppose you're right, but I would say I raise up the male as well, because it's like more men and more young men as well, and teenagers are are coming to listen to talks and different things, and they want to know more. And one thing that always comes up with men, regardless of age, is that they want to love themselves a bit more. They want to feel that feminine
Hmm.
inside of them. They want to feel all that emotion. And they would say, I want to be real. I want to be true to myself.
Hmm.
And sometimes I'd feel that's really sad when you have, maybe a 16-year-old saying that, because then that 16-year-old or 19-year-old is being trotted down, not being allowed in a sense to allow the feminine side in. As you had said, culture and tradition is still working hard not to allow that to happen. And then we're wondering why, so many men are having so many, I don't want to say mental issues, but feeling down, feeling sad in themselves, feeling lonely, and in a sense giving up on the world, locking themselves away in that way. Um, so I always like, the thing is, it's always nearly, sometimes just young men again, when I'm or it could be a family and the husband stops and just recognizes me and just says, thank you, like whatever miracle happened, you know, or a young person comes up to me and says, thank you, you saved my life, or you changed my way of thinking in a positive way. And I know, I know it all has to do with love and all of those emotions, all that spiritual side that has been, you know, beaten out of men and women in that sense, you know. But it's lovely to see it coming back, because the world now today, because there is so much anger, we need a lot more hope, and we do need love, and we need that compassion and that empathy. But if a man or a woman is not feeling that love inside of them, they will be mad angry. You know, that compassion or that empathy will be lacking, in that way. Like sometimes children would say to me, I don't know if my mommy and daddy love me, and I always get a shock. And I would say to them, your guardian angel is telling me your mom and dad does love you, but have you told your mom and dad that you love them? And sometimes a child will say no because they're afraid. And sometimes they will say yes, but daddy and mommy don't show. And again, it's that emotion in that way. And I'm finding these days a lot of young males are very, how would I say it? Um, they're very loving, very sensitive, and they want to stay that way. They want to stay open. They're doing their best to try and not let the world, you know, take that away.
Hmm.
And just to see their guardian angel, and it's a thing I don't see every day, but it, is a guardian angel have its wings open and around, like, can you imagine that, around this young human being, you know, could be a young human being in secondary school or just going into college or into national school, under 12, and to see that where the guardian angel is doing its best to protect this child from ridicule, in one sense, of being kind, of sharing, of caring, those simple things that you can't buy. And I think more and more children are being born with that, you know, um, they're letting it out regardless of what's happening in their life.
Hmm. That's so powerful. Where do the angels say we're headed to, right? Like as a civilization, as a species, as humanity.
Um, I would love to say to you that I wish we could get there a bit quicker,
Trust
a
me, I
bit
know.
faster. I wish we could get there tomorrow in that sense. But at the moment, it's hard to see because of the way the world is. But I know we can do it because I have been shown the future. So many incredible, wonderful futures, and they all come together as one. It's not just one future, it's like they all come together. And I know I have been shown negative ones as well, but the negative ones are, how would you say, it's like they come in bunches in that way. But then there's so many positive ones that are just going to clash in on top of them and make them disappear.
Hmm.
So that's why I know we can do it. And I would just say to everyone, I can't read or write. I'm severely dyslexic. And from the time I was a child, I was considered retarded. And I know people don't like using that word, but that's what I was called. And adults would say, she's thick, dumb, and stupid. She's only a cabbage, in that kind of way. And yet God has me here doing this for mankind. So there is so much hope there. We can do it. I know we can. I would never give up, even on the worst person you might consider in the world. And prayer is very powerful, no matter what faith or religion you come from. Prayer is powerful.
Hmm.
And it's part of spiritual growth as well. It's part of sitting in that silence or standing in that silence. You could be on a bus and you're in that silence of prayer. Your human self has become calm, and your soul, how can I say it? It's hard to say. Your soul has become peaceful. It is peaceful all of the time, but you as a human being feel that peace. And that's another thing, as human beings, we ask and we pray for, to feel peace. And again, that is connecting to our soul, the spiritual part of us that has that male and female as one.
Hmm.
And again, it's just, the human side of us has been taught they're both separate. Man and woman are both separate.
Sure. Have you ever encountered like the God, like that God energy, like in human form at all, like in this reality?
Yes.
Uh-oh. What was that like?
Um, how would I say, it's very hard to describe. It's like, you know, again, it's like you only can use human words. It's beyond our comprehension. And that's the one word the angels had taught me since I was a child, and took me years to say, by the way. I've only started to say it properly in the last 15 years, so a long time. Um, Again, it's like being in that presence humanly and spiritually, but you're human. You're along a river. You've gone into the forest, and that happens. It's like, I'm trying to search for words, but it's that peace, it's that love. It's like, you know, you just want to be there in that presence.
Sure. Did God
You
like
know,
did he or she show themselves to you and like in a body, like or as a person and said, "Hey, look, this is God," or was it like more of an experience?
what way would I say? Would I say since I was a child? So for that to happen is normal for me. That's the only way I can put it. It's normal for me. I couldn't, cut it down into what you said,
Sure.
because it's like, isn't it normal for you to be with your wife?
Yes.
Isn't it normal for you with your children in that way? So when it happens, it is rare, but I
What does
would
God
go,
say to
God,
you? Like when God's hanging out with you, like conversations with
um,
God, what does that sound like?
what does his voice sound like?
Well, what's the conversation? Like what do you guys
Well, the
talk about?
conversation, would be sometimes it was when God would talk about my bird of love, you know, sometimes it was when God took my hand and had me standing at a window, this enormous window, and looking out and telling me to how would I say, it's like to admire and become part of nature. Um, Sometimes when that happened, you know, and there was, how would I say, in the distance I could hear human beings talking or playing, just say I was near a house. Um, and sometimes God would say, become part of the human being. Um, and sometimes God talked to me about serious things as well, you know, and at times answered questions I asked, and other times told me, um, there's no need to ask those questions. It would just be just normal. And it's like we, I know, like you look on yourself as an adult, and people would look on me as an adult, but I'm not, and neither are you. You're only a child. And it's like when you're in the presence of God, of the Creator, or the universe, or whatever you want to call God, um, you know this. It's hard to describe. You're only a child. You're only, you know, this little child full of questions, full of wanting the Creator. Reaching out and wanting, and it's very hard to explain. Very, very hard to explain. And I'm trying so
You're
hard
doing a great
because
job.
no one has
I mean it's a
really,
tough question, right? Like
yeah, no one has really asked these questions.
sure, no. Well, I have to ask this question because a lovely fan on the YouTube channel asked this, and I thought, well, you know what? I'll ask. I'll ask. What about animals, right? Do they have their own little guardian angels and spirit guides as well?
Yeah, they don't have an individual guardian angel, but the angels do help to look after them. But what I have always been told was that we as human beings are the guardian angels of nature.
Hmm.
It's like nature has been given to us, and we are meant to protect it and look after it. But yes, I would see angels, the tree angel at times, in the trees, and that is just incredible to see. Sometimes I would see what I would smile at, you know, maybe I'm watching the birds, or like in Ireland, sometimes the deer, and I would see an angel in among them. And I have often watched, you know, where an animal was knocked down by a car, and you're kind of like the first on the scene, or maybe, other cars pass by, and I would see an angel there stroking the animal and giving it comfort, sometimes as it passed, as it died, but other times just giving it comfort till human beings came along to help it.
Hmm. I love that. Lorna, this has been way too fast. I just do want to say a couple of dates that you'll be coming to the United States because you are based, I think, in Ireland, right?
Yeah,
So you're based in Ireland.
I'm here in my old farmhouse that I talk about in Angels in My Hair.
Sure. That's awesome. So you will be coming to the United States in July to, I think, Omega from July 21st to the 23rd, and then the Art of Living in North Carolina, Boone, North Carolina, July 28th through to the 30th, and then our rival Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Lucky Dogs. You guys will be there August 5th, actually August 4th through the 5th. So that's awesome that you're coming to the United States. What do you experience when you come over here, right? Like, I'm sure it's a lot of support, right? But it's a totally different country. What's the reception like?
Um, well, one thing about America, and I know I've written a little bit about it, it's the gateway. It's the gateway to evolution. It's the gateway to the future. And Americans don't seem to realize that, you
It's
know.
the gateway
And
to the
it's
future. Like, what does that mean though? Like the gateway to the future.
um it's the gateway for things to change positive and good. And it's the gateway of the connection between the body and soul, of evolution happening, and all in good and positive ways. Um, and just every time, I fly to America, even when the plane has, not gone to the part of America, but I know I'm already in America because everything changes. And especially when I get off the plane, it's like, the energy of America is very, very powerful and very, very strong. And I always remember the first time I went there, the first couple of times, I literally wanted to, and I have never said this, I have literally wanted to get down on the ground and touch it, and even kiss it in that way, because I felt so much joy. And one of the things I was shown about America and it being the gateway is like, Americans coming through this gate and going out into the world. And Americans, which I love, is that you come from everywhere in the world. You are a new race and you don't realize it. You know, you're a new race. And I would love you all to get together as one because you're all Americans. And I know the American Indian was there first, but God had them there. So they're part of this new race. They're needed, you know. And again, it's kind of like sometimes at the moment I'd be saying to myself, God, what's up with America? Like, they should be way ahead spiritually and connected spiritually more. Um, there should be more powerful and good things coming from that part of the world. But at the moment, it's like I think you are trying to find yourselves in that way. But I know you can do it
Sure.
because the
Well,
rest of the world is depending on you. So
no
that's a big
pressure.
weight on your shoulder.
No pressure. Um, yeah, I feel like there is, like, I have this idea, right? Like that there is this polarity of forces, right? The positive and the negative. It's like a spectrum, right? And I feel like right now it's just the negative is just coming up. But in order for us to come out on the other end, like it's needed for growth, right? Like all of everything that's happening is needed for growth. It's like kind of
Oh,
like
yeah.
gravity, right? Like in order to become stronger or a faster runner, like you need to work out, you need to have resistance training, you need to do all of these things to excel your body and put it in uncomfortable positions and to like test it and to like retest it and break it down. And through that breakdown comes strength. And in order for us to become stronger as a culture, as a civilization, as a country, like we have to endure these resistances right now and get through them and push through them and keep going, have a strong collective will. And then when we get out on the other side, whatever that looks like, I feel like we'll be a stronger unit, if that makes
Yes.
sense.
Yes, it will be. I believe that. Um, more loving and more caring. I'll go back to that, and more compassionate and more resilient and more powerful, but in such a positive way, not in a negative way. And with that power becomes, you know, all of that love, all of that compassion as well. It's like, putting together the whole world again,
Hmm.
in that way. And I know we can do it. I know America can do it. And I know at times I get into trouble for saying this. You know, how could you say that about America? They don't listen to the rest of the world. They don't even go outside of America. But I have to tell the truth. You were gathered from all over the world. And one thing I do love, and that is I call these angels the American Gathering Angels. They're still bringing people to America,
Hmm.
you know, and and that puts wonder in my heart. You know, God is still having this new race come up, and the
Sure.
new race is from all over the world.
I love it. Well, we love you, Lorna Byrne. Thank you so much for taking the time to join the show. I cannot wait for the next book. Cannot wait for you to speak about angel gender and archangel, more female archangels. Yeah, I'm excited for everything that you're doing, all the content you're putting out, and for your visit here in the United States. I feel like it's going to do us some good to have your energy over here. Lorna, thank you so much for taking the time.
Well, thank you, and thank you to all your listeners. And I hope I'll be able to see when I am over there that you come to one of these events or something, and your wife and your children will keep
Sure, we'll
seeing
check
you
it out.
somewhere.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Maybe Pittsburgh. I don't know. I don't know if we're allowed in Pittsburgh. We're from
Yeah.
Baltimore. They're huge rivals, so we'll see.
Okay. I'll get that scarf or something like that.